So this next section is about priming your brain. And this is really a tool that's based on psychology and a lot of research that's has very powerful effects. And when I was doing my studies for my master's degree, I found this stuff fascinating because some of it was so counterintuitive to what I had been taught or thought worked. For example, I thought, well, if you write an affirmation down and you're, constantly telling yourself, well, shouldn't that work? And there are times when I was like, why isn't what I'm trying so hard to make happen working? So let me run through some of this and then explain why sometimes those things don't work and what you can do instead to make them work for you. So first of all, when you are trying to create a new habit, let's say you're just wanting to increase your intuition, it can be anything. It's like creating a new habit is creating a new goal for yourself. So you can pick anything you want in this segment to help you feel more spiritually connected. And what you're doing is you are releasing old habits in your brain, and you're releasing perceptions of the world in your brain. You're creating new neural pathways for yourself. This is what you're trying to do. So you wonder, how do you do this, right? So the thing that really got me in my studies was the power of repeat advertising, and then how that entire principle can be utilized for yourself, repeat advertising. So what that does, repeat advertising puts a brand in front of the forefront of your mind. So next time when you think of a soft drink, oh, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Coca-Cola. You're like most people, right? Because their branding, you've seen it many, many times over the years, and it's top of mind. So it's that thing where the more your brain accesses something, the easier it is for it to access it next time. It's much like having a path in the woods that you want to go down. It's, there's woods, they're just wild, there's no path, there's nothing. The first time you walk down it, it's kind of hard, it's difficult. You got to get these branches out of your way. And then slowly a path starts to form. And then over time it gets used and there's a clear path. But if the pathway doesn't get used, then the brush starts growing back in. So it's the exact same way with creating new habits and new neural pathways in your brain. So it's very fascinating stuff. So how do you utilize this? So you're walking down the forest in your brain, you want to create a new pattern, and you're going to, first of all, think of a goal that you would really like to reach. For example, I quit smoking once upon a time. That was one of these things where I utilized a lot of these principles and I didn't even know I was, because it was back in 2000. And then, any type of goal you have, if you want to find a better job, if you want to feel more intuitively connected, any of those things. So write it down, think about it. Don't do anything yet. The next step, and this is so important, this is one of the things that can block you from achieving those new habits and goals, is you have to see, are there any internal resistances that you have to achieving this goal? Sometimes they're very deep-seated, sometimes they're pretty simple. So I'll take the smoking example because it's really easy. Looking at what are my resistances, because I tried several times before unsuccessfully to quit smoking, and finally it worked in the end because I had to really look at, what was I resisting? It's that comfort. It was comfort, but I didn't feel good. The habit of picking up a cigarette. It's, take a look at what type of, what are you resisting? Where might you hit a wall? Sometimes it's old stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. So, oh, there's no way I could become an author. There's no way I could write a story. We have sometimes voices from wounds we've picked up from our past. Somebody might say, you're a terrible writer. Who ever thought you could write a story? So those things, we really have to do some self-examination, and we'll talk more about that in the next segment on house cleaning. But these are things that are very, very important if you want to reach your goals, to get them out of the way the best you can. One of the fastest tools that you can probably use for help with this, if you really want to do something very quickly is hypnosis. Hire a trained hypnotherapist, and that can actually help you uncover those things pretty quickly in a lot of cases, not all cases. So the next piece that's really important in order to reach your goals is you make a list of all of your previous accomplishments. So things in your entire life that you thought there is no way like that could have ever happened at first. And then when you did it, you're like, oh my God, I finished this. I did this. It can be anything from finishing a paper when you were in high school. Like you never thought you'd be able to do it, but you did it. It could be like winning a soccer match. If you play soccer, like you never thought you could do it, but you did it. So it's these wins, even if they're small wins in your life, like start making a list of as many as you can possibly remember and write them down and read them to yourself every day as you're going through this process, because it also primes your mind to say, oh yeah, I have been successful in my goals. I have been able to overcome things. It gives me chills thinking about it. It's so important. So next piece is you write out your positive message. And here's another piece that can get people into trouble because we don't know, we're not taught this stuff. Because when you write it down, don't write it as if the goal is completed, because even though there is like this philosophy out there that, write it as if it's already done and then you'll manifest it. The problem with that is your brain then thinks you've already completed it. You're training your brain to think, oh, it's done. Your subconscious thinks it's done. It's not going to work for you. So for example, instead of like, I have finished my book, it's like, I find the writing process easy. Or I am slim. How about I am losing weight quickly? So those are, when you pivot the how you write it, it helps your brain to help you achieve the goal. So you're making your subconscious actually work for you with that. So then you print out these messages. Take them, write them out, print them out, and you can put them strategically in places where you can actually see them. So if you sit at your computer a lot, put it on your computer. If you're in your car a lot, put some in your car. Even make it a screensaver on your computer. Put it on your bathroom mirror so you see it first thing when you wake up in the morning, on your refrigerator. And also, an important thing, it takes some time to think this through, is pair it with things that you already have a positive association with. So let's say you've got photos of family members that you love, or you actually have a painting that you love in your house. It can be anything you already have a positive association with, and then put it next to it. And that technique is actually utilizing something called classical conditioning. So we're utilizing things that psychologists have found over the years through many studies that works on our brains, and we can use it on ourselves to really elevate ourselves rather profoundly and quickly. So once you start doing this, an important thing to think about, as we talked about meditation, prayer, turning it over. So even though you're doing this when you're in your meditations in the morning, when you're praying, to still listen to the messages that are coming through about your goals. Because you might find that, you might think, I really want to write this book. And then next thing you know, you're pivoting to, wow, this should be a video instead. This should be a short film. So you're allowing yourself room for the divine wisdom to intervene in your life when you're keeping that space open. So even when you're priming your brain to achieve your goal, even if it's become more intuitive, you leave the space open for new information to come in and help you move that forward. So yeah, those are actually very important pieces. So let's say I think that was it for this segment. There's actually a lot more in the book you'll read about. It's a rabbit hole you can go down. It's really quite fascinating.